All right, are we rolling? Hey, crazy seniors, we are down to our 8th, and I believe this will be our last video on, lesson. 7 out of the 8 of them have been videos on demographics. All right, last lesson we were talking about the Democratic Coalition. Remember? The Democratic Coalition, the Republican Coalition. You must know those by heart for my test. All right? And then I was showing you how these are Obama's numbers, these were Clinton's numbers. The pattern held. Clinton just had a slight erosion, right? Had a slight erosion. And I left off talking nonsensically about this being data on women, but this is not data on women. This was data on white college graduates, men or women. This has got to be a big concern for President Trump, right? This is what happened in, this was a poll, what happened in 2016. What's an exit poll? An exit poll is when people get polled after they leave a voting place, right? And this was a 2020 poll. All right. Okay, so I'm going to tell you 2 stories today. I'm going to tell you the story of the Democratic Party, and I'm going to tell you the story of the Republican Party. I'm going to go quick, so I'm going to be expecting you to pause the video to take notes. All right. The story of the Democratic Party. Okay. This is a big part of the story of the Democratic Party. Why do minorities and women to vote? Why do they have a tendency to vote Democrat? What is the connection between democratic, liberal, or progressive values and women and minorities? Pause, stop for a second, think about that. Why would women and minorities be more attracted to a party that puts a, for example, emphasis on government solving problems, or puts a more of an emphasis on equality, or the government enforcing societal equality? Maybe it's because these groups have benefited from the government, benefited from government action, right? My AP guys, you must know this by heart. The 15th Amendment. You can't deny voting on the basis of race. 19th. Can't deny voting on the basis of sex. It says sex, not gender. 24th Amendment. You can't have a poll tax. 26th Amendment. You can't deny voting based upon age once people reach 18, right? Okay. So that's the argument. The argument is minorities, women are attracted to the Democratic Party because it wants bigger government, more government involvement, more income redistribution, tax the rich, more social welfare programs, and more protection of equality, like affirmative action and stuff like that. All right. Men, white men, particularly, this is true, isn't it? I mean, it's just true. Advantaged by the status quo. What's the status quo? The way things are, the current system, which frankly they built, right? Our system was built by inspired, intellectually brilliant, but still white guys, right? Okay. All right, what is happening to the Democratic Coalition? Well, Native American, Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. Asian Americans are going up a little bit. What demographic group is really going up? Really going up. You watch the fight over this. This is where the fight is going to be for the Hispanic vote. Remember, what happened? What happened in the Hispanic vote? The Hispanic vote, Obama in 2012 won it by 71%. After this number scared the heck out of Republicans. They said, oh my gosh, if we don't fix that number, we are never going to win the White House again. And then President Trump comes down his escalator at Trump Tower and says, Mexicans are rapists. I assume some are good people. And the Republican strategist said, oh my gosh, he just killed us. And then what happened? He won, he did better with Hispanics than Romney did in 2020. Go figure. But this has got to be a concern for Republicans, right? Okay. Now we've learned this. So youth turnout is low, particularly in midterms, right? What about other groups that have a tendency to vote Democrat? What about other members of the Democratic coalition? Do they also not show up in midterms? Well, let's look at some data. All right, this is 2008, which was a presidential, correct? 2010 midterm. By the way, all right, let's look at the data first. All right, so percent voting. Let's look at some, all right, how about white non-Hispanic? White people went down by 17% in between the presidential and the midterm. That's a big drop. But African Americans went down at an even higher percentage, Hispanics went down at an even higher percentage. So that zigzag chart for between young and old, that also applies, right, to Hispanics and Asian Americans. What about men? Men dropped by 16 points. But women dropped by 20 points. So what happens in a midterm? It's not only young people that don't show up, it's also other components of the Democratic coalition that don't show up during midterms. So the Democratic coalition is what? Shrinking or expanding? Remember, who's having babies? Minority. The minority birth rate is 2.1. White birth rate is 1.9. The word I'm looking for here is expanding. The Democratic coalition is expanding, but they don't show up in midterms. 2018 was kind of the exception to that, all right? 2018 was the exception to that. In 2018, a bunch of Democrats showed up, and the Republicans lost 40, that's 40, seats in the House of Representatives, and lost control of the House of Representatives. In 2010, with these slides, the Republicans picked up, I think it was 63 seats in the House, and took over the House of Representatives. So we had a Republican House of Representatives in 2010, and we had that went from Democrat to Republican in 2010, and a House of Representatives that went from Republican, to Democrat in 2018. Ooh, AP, you better have written those down, all right? Okay. So this is interesting. So the Democrats will win the presidency, or at least the popular vote for presidency, but they'll lose Congress, at least the House of Representatives, in the midterm. All right, so let's see. Democrat won the popular vote. Let's start with 92. All right, so 92, that was Clinton. He won. He was a Democrat, right? 96, Clinton, Democrat. 2000, well, Gore won the popular vote. He won the popular vote, so the Democrats won the popular vote because of the Electoral College, which I am going to teach you, and which Mr. Brown, who is here for a cameo appearance. How are you, sir? How are you?
Excellent.
Fist bump, fist bump.
All right.
So, you remember the election in 2000, right?
The hanging shard.
The hanging chads.
Chad, yes.
Yeah, you know what? Do you know this crazy number? Do you know how many votes Bush won the presidency by that year?
Electoral college votes?
No. Popular vote votes.
No.
He won the presidency by 536 votes in Florida.
Wow.
Because that was the gap between the Gore and Bush counts in Florida. And because he won Florida by 536 votes, he got their electoral votes and he won the electoral college.
close.
So out of a country at the time of 310 million people, 536 votes made the difference. Isn't
I didn't know
that
it was that close. I knew it was close. It went to the Supreme Court, right?
Yeah, and here's what we're figuring out now.
Yeah.
So, I'm telling them, Democrats, the Democratic coalition is expanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't show up in midterms.
Oh.
They show up in presidential elections. They don't show up in midterms. All right, so I'm just saying, here's the Democratic base, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're at work. All right, 92, Clinton's elected. 96, Clinton's elected. 2000, Gore wins the popular vote. Bush becomes president.
Mm-hmm.
04, Bush wins it fair and square. Bush Jr. wins it fair and square, all right? 08, Obama, right?
Right.
12, Obama. 2016, Clinton wins the popular vote
Right.
by 2.8 million votes.
Right.
All right? So Clinton wins the popular vote. All right? So look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
So in 6 out of the 7 past presidential elections, there have been more Democratic votes than Republican votes.
I've never added it up like that. Yeah, it's a lot.
And then that results in divided government. AP, you have to know this by heart. What is divided government? It's a term of art. It's when the president is Republican and one or both houses
Oh.
are Democrat, right?
Right.
You guys got that? Here's the generic version. The president is one party and one or both houses of Congress, the House and the Senate, are controlled by the other party.
Do they have a name for everything being the same?
You know, unified government,
Okay.
unified government. But you know, when it's divided government, nothing's going to happen, right?
Fight.
Well, is a bill going to pass?
It's going to be tough.
Let's say the House and the Senate are controlled by Democrats,
Mm-hmm.
but the president's a Republican. Is the House and Senate going to pass a bill?
No, it's going
Yeah,
to be tough.
they're Democrats.
Right.
Yes, they're both going to pass.
The House and
Senate are
the Senate,
Democrats.
they will.
But then it goes to the president, and he's going to what?
Veto
He's
it.
going to veto it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the Senate is Republican and the House is Democrat. Are they even going to get any bills out of Congress?
It'll stay in.
Won't even get out of Congress,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
Okay, cool. You guys, big hand for Mr. Brown. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. See you next time.
All right, beautiful.
All right.
Okay, check out my next cartoon now. The story of the Republican Party. Old paranoid white man. Hey, I hear you. I hear those voices in my head. Stop it. And then here's a woman who's like pulling her child away as fast as he can. I love that cartoon. Don't tell your parents I showed you this cartoon, all right?
All right.
See ya.
We'll see you later.
Okay, what's the story of the Republican Party? How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing a great job. Okay, what's the story of the Republican Party? Well, this is the flip side of this. By the way, what's the Republican base? What's the Republican coalition? If you forget, look at me. I'm an old white guy, right? Okay, whites. This is interesting. Now, I'm going to be dead by then, but you guys will not. And this is a very interesting moment. And I believe it is 2015. 2043. Something significant is going to happen in this country in 2043, and that is whites will no longer be the, what's the word I'm thinking of? Starts with an M, ends with majority, right? Whites will no longer be the majority. They will, after 2042, be a, this is a new word for you, okay? So remember this. Whites will be a plurality. What is a plurality? A plurality is the biggest group, but less than a majority, all right? This is going to be significant. I'll give you a quick example of smoking. When I was a kid, oh my God, adults smoked everywhere. I remember being in the back of John Hermes' car with his parents, both of the windows rolled up, and they're both smoking away. You'd fly in an airplane, 30,000 feet in the air, and 1/3 of it would be smoking. All the restaurants smoking, and then more than half of the population became non-smokers, and then boom, boom, boom. No smoking in airplanes, no smoking in public places, no smoking in restaurants, and now like no smoking in office buildings, right? So I think things are going to happen. By the way, is this scary for old white people? How many people think this is scary for old white people? How many people think this fact is hovering like a dark cloud over the Republican Party? How many people think the Republican Party is eventually going to disappear because of this? I disagree. I think the Republican Party is going to adapt, right? For example, I was talking to some friends on this. I'm like, the Republican Party, what is the Republican Party doing to attract young people right now? Name me a policy that is designed to attract young people. Oh, how about lowering college tuition? Nope. How about protecting the environment? Global warming? Nope. I don't know, think of some other ones and talk to me about it. Send me an email. All right, so what is the story of the Republican Party? Who votes Republican? Old white people, right? Old white people. Who's having babies? Who is dying? You guys, in a presidential election, 4 years goes by. What happens in 4 years? A bunch of old people die, right? A bunch of old people die. And a whole bunch of young people become eligible to vote. The voting electorate is different in 2020 than it was in 2016. And then it was in 2012. All right. What's the definition of a plurality? We did that, right? The biggest group, but less than a majority. Pause it and write it down if you don't have it. All right. Whites will be a plurality by then, 2043. Gender gap. What was the gender gap? Remember, the gender gap was, 10 points with Obama in 2012? 9 points with Clinton? 10, 9 points. What is this going to expand in Trump's election in 2020? Are Republicans scared that this gender gap is going to go above 10 points in 2020? Has President Trump alienated women voters, some women voters? I will tell you that there are Republicans that are very worried about that. This is going to be interesting, the Hispanic gap. By the way, what was the Hispanic gap? Go back to this one. Go back to this one. What was the Hispanic gap? All right, so 71, what's the Hispanic gap? 100 minus 71 is what? 29? Oh my gosh, it was 29 points. It was 29 points. For Clinton, it was what? 65. It was, no, what am I doing wrong? What am I, I'm doing, I need to do, yeah. hold on. What's the difference between 65 and 100? I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? The difference between, oh, I get it. Between 71 and 29, I'm sorry. 71 and 29, what is that? What are the points? Because that's what Obama got, and that's what Romney got, right? So what is that? That is 6, that is what, 40? Oh my God, what is that? That is 42 points? 42 points? And this one is what, 65, 35, that one's 30 points, right? Everybody got that? Take the Republican number and the Democratic number, and it's that difference between them. So, points. All right, so what is so what's happening to the Republican coalition? The Republicans' coalition is shrinking, right? Is shrinking. This was my quote after the Obama re-election in 2012. I said, if the Republicans don't fix the Hispanic gap, they will never elect another president. Was I right? I was wrong. Along came President Trump. Shockingly did better with Hispanics than anticipated, in spite of his immigration positions and comments about Mexicans. Did better with women. Did better with high school educated white men. Right? Now, but is this pressure inevitable? Hold on, let me check. Is this pressure inevitable? And the answer is yes. All right, so check this out. In 1988, Bush Sr. won 59% of the white vote, and he won 426 electoral votes. In 2012, Mitt Romney won 59% of the white vote, and he won 206 electoral votes. And Trump in 2016 won 58% of the white vote, and he became president. What happened? Well, number one, he lost the popular vote by 2.8 million. He won the Electoral College. But what happened? Guess whose coalition didn't bother going to the polls and showing up? And that was the Democrats, right? That was the Democrats. Okay. Some more data really quick. Why did Clinton lose? Erosions, right? Erosions. She lost 5 points with blacks, and their turnout was low. She lost 6 points with Latinos, and the turnout was low. She lost 8 points with Asians. She lost 3 points with independents, and turnout was low, all right? And she lost 5 points with young people, and their turnout was down from 2012. All right, Rust Belt whites. No college degree. People from the Rust Belt, right? We looked at this one before in the last slide. White, oftentimes union, blue collar guys. Hey, where's that come from, blue collar? White collar, blue collar. In a big factory, the guys working down on the factory floor are wearing blue work shirts, and then the business accounting types are upstairs in the office overlooking the factory wearing white shirts. Blue collar, white collar. Is this going to continue for Trump? All right, what do we got on time? We've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to go through these really quick. Some terms you must know for my test. Ticket voting. We've already talked about this. You go into the ballot box, and you just, if you're a Republican or if you're an independent, you go bump, 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 bump. Look, a whole bunch of people do this, all right? If I could ask one question to see how people were voting, what would I ask? By the way, this is on my test. What would I ask? I would ask, what is your party? All right? Republicans are probably going to ticket vote. Democrats are probably going to ticket vote. What is splitting a ticket? And who's more likely to do it? Splitting a ticket is voting for one party for president and another party for one of your congressmen or senators, all right? So maybe voting for Clinton and then voting for Paul Gosar, or voting for John McCain and voting for for Hillary Clinton, all right? Okay. This is a recent development. Nationally, there are more registered independents than either registered Republicans or Democrats. That is called de-alignment. All right. Down ballot effects, another term. Now, look, Trump wasn't on the ballot in 2018 in the midterm, but did a whole bunch of people vote because of President Trump one way or another in the midterm? All right, that's in essence a down ballot effect, but particularly in a presidential election, does the choice of president affect how people vote for Congress? And they call Congress, the Senate and House, down ballot because the president is listed first on a ballot, all right? Single issue voters. There are some people, hold on, let me look at my time. I got time? There are some people that are single issue voters. Let's say that I love you, I think you are the best candidate I could ever hope to vote for, but you are pro-choice and I am pro-life, and I will not vote for a pro-choice candidate. If am I like that, I am a single issue voter, right? On the issue of abortion, which is one of the poster child single voter issues. Other issues like that? Somebody said guns. You know what? I agree. How about immigration? Boy, look, Hispanics. Hispanics are conservative, Catholic, traditional, family-oriented, family value, hardworking, pull yourself up from your bootstraps, particularly the Mexicans that have come up to the United States, who are like, you know, the rock stars of Mexico. Who risks that? Who risks coming up? You know, only somebody with a lot of guts and gumption. Those people sound like they should be Republican voters, right? How come the Republican Party is losing 65-70% of those voters? Could it be immigration? Could it be that a lot of those people are single issue voters? Maybe. All right. What do we got? De-alignment. Write this down. I'm not going to write it down for you. De-alignment is this trend where people are registering as independent and not as a Republican or Democrat. The trend has been going on for some time. Now, like I said, nationally, there are more registered independents than either Republicans or Democrats. Realignment is a different concept. Realignment is when there is a shift that happens. There was arguably a realignment in Trump's election in 2016 when white, blue-collar, Rust Belt people shifted significantly to Trump. It also happened with Reagan. They were called Reagan Democrats. Another huge realignment, write it down AP, was in the 1960s and 70s in the South when there was a huge shift from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. All right, that was realignment. You guys have been awesome. You're going to do a worksheet, and I'm going to send you a study guide, and then we're going to have a test next period. Wow. Okay, bye.